They laughed when they shoved her off the wagon, boots thudding in the dirt as if she were a sack of spoiled grain. Laughter cracked through the night, sharp and cruel, and the lantern light caught her face in a way that made the men laugh harder. Someone spat and said she was payment, someone else said she was a joke, and the word ugly was tossed like a stone meant to bruise. The wagon rolled away, leaving her standing alone at the edge of the ranch yard with the coyotes singing as if they understood. The rancher watched from the porch without moving. He had seen men arrive broken and leave worse, had seen women lie in saints' steel, had buried a brother with his own hands and shot a horse that trusted him. He did not laugh. He did not speak. He studied the way the woman stood, shoulders squared against mockery, hands trembling but not begging. He noticed the dust ground into her dress, the scar along her jaw that bent her smile before it could form, the way she did not cry even when the gate creaked shut behind her. She said nothing. Silence can be a weapon when words have failed too many times. They had told him she was the ugly daughter, the burden no one wanted, the thing to toss at a man they hated. They had said she was grown, old enough to fend for herself, old enough to be thrown into the night without a second thought. The rancher had not asked questions. He had nodded once, the way men do when they decide something is finished. But nothing about the night felt finished. He told the men to leave. His voice was quiet, and that made them uneasy. They left with curses and laughter fading down the road, confident they had won something they would never need to understand. The gate closed. The night leaned in. She flinched when he stepped off the porch. He stopped where he was, hands open, palms empty. He told her the house was warm. He told her there was coffee on the stove and a blanket by the fire. He did not tell her to come inside. He waited. When she finally moved, it was slow, careful, like a horse that had learned to expect the whip. She kept her eyes down. He noticed how her boots were worn through at the toes, how her fingers were cracked and scarred in the way of someone who worked hard and was never thanked for it. He opened the door and stood aside. Inside, the fire popped. Coffee steamed. A clock ticked loud as a heartbeat. She stood near the door, ready to bolt. He poured a cup and set it on the table between them, then stepped back. He said his name. He asked hers. She hesitated, then said it. It sounded like a name that had been used to call her to chores and blame. He repeated it carefully, as if trying not to break it. They sat in silence. The clock kept time with memories neither of them spoke. At last she asked why he had not laughed. The question was a knife she had been sharpening all her life. He told her he did not laugh at people who had already been hurt. He told her he did not like jokes that bled. She stared at him, searching for the trick. There are men who feed on hope because it tastes better when it breaks. She waited for the catch. Instead, he asked if she was hungry. The night stretched. The coyotes quieted. Wind pressed against the walls. He made stew and tore bread with his hands. She ate as if food might vanish if she did not hurry. He watched her hands stop shaking as warmth found its way back into her bones. Later, when the fire burned low, he showed her the spare room. He set a lantern by the bed and closed the door, leaving her alone with the silence and a lock she could turn if she wanted. He slept on the porch with a rifle across his knees, not because he feared her, but because the road had a memory for cruelty and it remembered his place well. She did not sleep. She sat on the bed and listened to the clock, to the wind, to her own breathing. She had learned that nights were dangerous, that promises were sharp things. But nothing came. Dawn found her still sitting, eyes wide, as if the sun itself were a test. Morning brought riders. Dust rose like smoke. Men dismounted with bad intentions and worse smiles. They wanted their joke back. They wanted to see the rancher humbled, wanted to prove that kindness was just another weakness to exploit. He stepped into the yard and told them to leave. They laughed. They said the woman belonged to them by right of mockery, that she was a thing to be passed and tossed. He said she was under his roof and his protection. He said that was the end of it. Words became hands on guns. The woman watched from the doorway, heart hammering. She had seen this before. Men posturing. Blood following. She braced for the sound that would end her brief hope. The rancher moved like a man who had made peace with the worst day of his life long ago. He spoke once more, calm as a pond at dusk. He named the line they were about to cross. He told them what would happen if they crossed it. They crossed it. The yard erupted. Shots cracked the air. Dust leapt. The smell of powder burned the morning. When it ended, the riders lay still or fled, leaving behind the echo of their laughter turned into something else entirely. The rancher stood breathing hard, smoke drifting from the barrel, eyes steady. The woman did not scream. She walked out into the yard and looked at what remained. She looked at him. Her voice came out rough and surprised. She asked why he had done that. He told her he had claimed responsibility, not possession. He told her that when a thing is thrown at you in cruelty, the only answer worth giving is to stand and say no. They buried the dead. The rancher washed his hands. The woman helped. There is a strange closeness in labor done together after violence, a kind of honesty that cannot be faked. By evening, the land seemed to breathe again. Word traveled fast. Some said the rancher had gone mad. Some said he had found religion. Others said he was hiding something darker. The truth was quieter and therefore less interesting. Days passed. She learned the rhythms of the place. She learned that he rose before dawn and talked to the horses as if they listened. She learned that he paid fair wages to anyone who worked and turned away men who laughed too easily. He learned that she could mend a fence faster than most, that she could read tracks in weather, that she sang softly when she thought no one could hear. One night, a storm came down hard and fast. Lightning split the sky. The house shook. She stood by the window, counting seconds between thunderclaps like a child daring the dark to be worse than memory. He joined her without touching. They watched rain turn the yard into a mirror of chaos. She told him about the scar. She told him about being the last, the unwanted, the one blamed when things went wrong. She told him about the wagon ride and the laughter. She told him she had learned to be useful because being loved was not an option. He listened. When she finished, he said nothing that tried to fix it. He said he was sorry. He said she was not a joke. He said the ranch had room for people who worked and stayed. The storm passed. The clock kept ticking. In the quiet, something shifted, not with heat or hunger, but with trust built like a fence one post at a time. Trouble returned as it always does, wearing a new coat. A man arrived with papers and a smile that did not reach his eyes. He claimed the woman was property owed, claimed debts and promises made by men long dead. He threatened the ranch with law and fire. The rancher read the papers. He set them down. He said no. The man sneered and reached for his coat. The woman stepped forward. Her voice did not shake. She named dates, places, witnesses. She named lies. She claimed herself. The man faltered. He had not expected the joke to speak. Law followed. Truth followed slower, but it came. The man left in chains. The town shifted its gaze, uncertain where to place its scorn now that it had been named and rejected. That night, the rancher and the woman sat on the porch and watched stars emerge like quiet witnesses. He told her she was free to go wherever she wished. He told her the door would be open if she stayed. She thought of roads that led nowhere she wanted to be. She thought of hands that had thrown her away. She thought of mornings with work and evenings with peace. She stayed. Time did what time does. It wore down fear. It built muscle and memory. The ranch prospered not because of luck but because of care. People learned that cruelty found no purchase there. They learned that a joke can be turned into a stand. One evening, she placed her hand over his on the railing. It was simple. It was honest. It was earned. He did not flinch. He turned his hand to meet hers. In a world that had tried to break her with laughter, she had been claimed by something quieter and stronger, a choice, made in daylight, to stand and be seen.